Imagine if you could prove that Jesus was hidden in the Old Testament.
That would be awesome.
Well, here at Bible Unbound, we're here to discover the Bible by uncovering the gospel throughout it, which just so happens to include the Old Testament. And there is a hidden message in the name of God that lays bare the identity of the Messiah.
No way!
Recently, the story of Moses released on Bible Unbound. In it, the question was asked, who is God? This question comes from one of the most important passages in the entire Bible, the revelation of God's divine name. This name is so sacred that it isn't even said in most Jewish traditions, simply referred to as Hashim, or the name. In fact, one legend has it that while copying the Old Testament, an ancient group of scribes known as the Masoretes would ritually wash themselves in a mikveh every single time the name appeared. 6,800 baths in a lifetime.
That's a lot.
God's name is an unbound well of profundity, but I wanted to take some time to just reflect on one huge truth that God's name discloses to those who read it, namely, that it reveals the identity of the Messiah. Let's explore. When I released the complete story of Moses video, I realized that I would not be able to capture the depths of God's divine name revealed to humanity properly without totally ruining the narrative flow again. So I figured I'd make this video with some thoughts, some reflections on the divine name separately. That's why I have my reflection glasses on. Nerd! This is not a scholarly work. Even though I draw on things that I've learned over the years, it is really just the result of my meditation on God's name. In the ancient world, all of the gods had names. Those names defined their character, their identity. It revealed to the hearer who that god was. So, for example, Atum, the ancient Egyptian god of creation, his name means something like the completed one, or the one who completes. Marduk, the ancient Babylonian god, means bull or brutish, reflecting on his strong, brutish character. So, when Moses is tending to his father-in-law Jethro's flock of sheep, and he comes across a bush in the desert engulfed in flames, though it's not burned, and God reveals his name to him, God is trying to tell us, trying to tell the hearer something about who he is. Moses said to God, if I come to the people of Israel and I say to them, the God of your fathers has sent me to you, and they ask me, what is his name? What should I say to them? And so God said to Moses, I am who I am. And he said, say this to the people of Israel, I am has sent me to you. God also said to Moses, say this to the people of Israel, the Lord, the God of your fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob, has sent me to you. This is my name forever, and thus I am to be remembered throughout all generations. God reveals to Moses that his name is I am who I am. In the Hebrew, Ehyeh Esher Ehyeh, or I be who I be, or I will be who I will be. Or, as he reveals its shorthand counterpart immediately thereafter, Yahuwah, Yahweh, the Lord. Within this name, I find there to be three incredibly potent truths that foreshadow or lead us to the Messiah.
I am ready.
First, if gods in the ancient world had names that revealed their character, then the name of God tells us that God encompasses all of reality. He says that he is the one from which there is being. He is the I am. In fact, the name of God shows us that he is the fabric, the foundation of reality as he's revealing it in the Bible. Consequently, that's why we translate Yahweh as the Lord, the King, the one who is in charge of everything. This makes the name of God unlike anything else in all ancient Near Eastern traditions or religions. This is something entirely new. Because for once in all of human history, there's not a God in control of the Nile and another God in control of the cosmos and another God in control of the rain. No, God is the only God who has sovereign control over all of reality. He is ultimate reality.
This is so totally awesome!
That's the real significance of his name. The very name God gives to Moses is wholly transcendent. It's completely set apart, holy, unlike anything that has ever been conceived of before. But at the same time, the name is also fully condescendent. It's totally human. It is brought down to human understanding. In fact, I realized this while I was recording the Moses video. I had to speak God's name. I had to come up with a voice for God. And this is a really weird meta experience for anyone who has ever read the Bible out loud. We must put a voice to our God, and that's how he designed it. Even though he has a voice and he spoke to Moses, giving himself a name is one of the most human things he could have done, even in the Bible. Remember? Adam, humanity, tasked with naming parts of creation. So this means that all at once, at the same time, God's divine name is fully transcendent. It fully captures the essence of God, set apart, holy, unlike anything else, and fully condescendent, fully human, forcing identity into a being. In this way, the divine name is, by its very nature, incarnational. It is divinity cloaked in humanity. It is God's word in the flesh. To that end, the Messiah then also must be incarnate. Secondly, if the name of God reveals God as the source of ultimate reality, then he also is revealing himself here as the arbiter of right and wrong. God's name shows us that he is the ethical gatekeeper, the moral law giver by which all of reality in the cosmos operates. God says, "I am who I am," the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. A callback to a God who acts, a God who has sovereign control over the moral universe. These stories that he cites are stories in which God's just mercy are on full display throughout them. So, while God has not explicitly revealed the law to Moses yet, he is claiming to be the arbiter of morality here. In that same way, Mark 1:14 tells us that Jesus came proclaiming God's kingdom. In other words, Jesus came explaining how reality actually worked. He told us that the humble are exalted, the poor are rich, the hated are loved, the sinful are forgiven, the unjust are dealt with. Jesus reveals to us how the fabric of the moral universe operates in the exact same way that God reveals it to Israel at the foot of Mount Sinai. Finally, the name of God, I am who I am, Ehyeh Esher Ehyeh, reveals quite simply that God is eternal. Meaning that if a person wants to prove that they are actually God in the flesh, all they need to do is prove to everybody that they're eternal. It's really that simple. This is exactly why Paul says in 1 Corinthians 15 that if Jesus did not really raise from the dead, then we are a people most to be pitied. Because sins are not forgiven. Sins can't be forgiven by anyone other than God himself. And that's said time and time again throughout the Bible. And if Jesus was mortal, if he died and did not raise, then he is not God, and he cannot forgive sins. This is also why the disciples didn't know who Jesus was until after his resurrection. I mean, really know who he was. Because anyone in their day could be a good philosopher, they could have been a cool magician with cool magic tricks, but no one had ever in the history of humanity been able to prove that they were eternal because no one had ever raised from the dead. In fact, a bunch of people were claiming to be the Messiah in Jesus' day, and when they were killed, the disciples all scattered, because they realized this fact. They were false teachers and not the eternal one of God. The disciples could have thought that Jesus was a good teacher, a rabbi, they called him, but they could not believe he was God until after he was resurrected. Then they worshiped him. The resurrection was a proclamation of Jesus' eternality and therefore divinity. It was a re-enunciation of the divine name. And just to be clear here, this was not like any other resurrection story that anyone had ever come up with before. Many scholars, secular and not, have realized that the Christian resurrection story is completely unique because it's not some sort of divine cycle of dying and rebirth playing out. This is not Osiris as the sun god bringing the seasons or Tammuz as the harvest god bringing the harvest. No, this was not a metaphor or some story. The biblical authors were claiming that Jesus really was God, and they claimed this because they said he died and rose again. And he stayed living, he stayed human. Even outside of all other ancient resurrection stories, none of them were human beings able to raise themselves from the dead because that meant that they would be the one true eternal God of all creation. That is entirely unique to Christianity. Therefore, the Messiah would need to be the divine name, incarnate among men. The Messiah would need to reveal the moral fabric of reality and resurrect from the dead, being eternal. If a person could do that, then they would be Yahweh, revealed to humanity. That is why the disciples thought that Jesus was God, God incarnate. And the divine name asks us, as it asked Moses, who are you going to trust to be the fabric of ultimate reality? Are you going to trust in the gods whose names mean strong or river or snow? Or are you going to trust in the eternally just ruler of heaven and earth who breaks through creation, liberates his people, and declares himself to be the I Am? Thanks so much. This was Bible Unbound. We'll see you next time. Hey, Austin here. Just a quick reminder about Bible Unbound and the content you just watched, which was supported by our funders over on patreon.com. Patreon is where you try to get a bunch of people to donate small amounts to fund a mission. And the mission of Bible Unbound is to discover the Bible by uncovering the gospel. You see, we are passionate about creating a community of people who want to see Bible-curious people understand the Bible by seeing the gospel and Jesus proclaimed throughout the entire thing. And so if you want to fund that mission, if you want to become a part of the vision we have over here at Bible Unbound, you can explore more of that over on patreon.com. We'd love to see you there. Thanks so much.